I want to get into something that is apparently not at all political, and yet I think it's totally political. It's a commentary on society. There's so many different dimensions and pieces to this, and I would love to get you engaged in this. If you have thoughts or opinions on this, and I would particularly like to hear from women on this. There's an article by Catherine Rampell in the Washington Post on May 18th, and so the day before yesterday. And I read this, and I forwarded it to Louise, to my wife, and the boss of this show, and I said, this is really something. The story boils down to this, and it's all about politics in Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., but it actually, where I want to take this goes much larger than that. And it's that women staffers in the offices of male members of Congress are, by and large, either scared to death, discouraged, or prevented from hanging out alone with their male staffers, or with their male boss, excuse me, their male member of Congress. And I'm guessing very, very few male members of Congress have a woman as their chief of staff for this reason. And the reason, as Catherine Rampell points out, is that here it is. She says the worst transgression, which multiple women reported, these are reports from women who work on Capitol Hill, was a more deliberate inequity. In some offices, only male staffers can spend time one-on-one with their male bosses. So, for example, here on our radio show, there's four of us who are in the office all the time. I mean, Sean's out in Portland doing the show booking the show, and Louise is over at our place booking the show, and we've got a bunch of people who work on the show, but they're not all physically here. But there's four of us physically here. So in this world, if Danielle, who works for me and actually does a lot of really important work on this show, in addition to screening calls, she helps produce the show and is one of the better of all of us at tracking down really cool stories that we should talk about on the air and stuff like that. And so, we all know each other and work closely enough. This is a very small company that this is not how it plays out here, but this is how it could play out in a congressional office, or frankly, in corporate America. If I wanted Danielle's advice, and we just had a long work day, and I said, hey, let's go grab some dinner and talk, which is how business is done. In fact, if I took Danielle out to dinner and we talked about the show, I could even bill the IRS for it, essentially. I could make it a business expense. This is absolutely routine, except not between men and women. Because then, somebody might walk by, even take a picture, who knows, and say, ho, what's Thom Hartmann doing with this strange woman? Or, if Shane, Danielle's partner, if Shano was inclined to be kind of jealous, maybe I shouldn't be using you guys as examples. It's okay? All right, thank you. Shano says it's hilarious. If Shano was one of these, parent, let's say insecure husbands or partners or whatever, he would like, you're doing what with the woman that I live with, and it's like, this is one of the really serious barriers to women for advancement in the workplace. Oddly enough, it's probably not so much a barrier for men in the workplace. In other words, it wouldn't. I have no idea what Barbara Boxer or Dianne Feinstein's staff looks like, and whether they have women or men as their chiefs of staff or senior staffers or people that they would go out to dinner alone with and consult with. But if they did, odds are nobody would think twice about it. Oh yeah, she's out with her chief of staff, or Jan Schakowsky, or any other female member of Congress. And this article by Catherine Rampell is, exclusively about Congress. One woman said, there's an office rule, I can't be alone with a congressman. This is a woman who works in a congressman's office. Another said, quote, this is from the Washington Post article by Catherine Rempel, day before yesterday. Another member of Congress, or another woman who works for a member of Congress, said, I was not allowed to staff my boss at certain events without another male staffer present because I was a woman. Another said, my former boss never took a closed-door meeting with me in the span of working for him off and on over a 12-year stretch, even though I was in a position of senior leadership. Some staffers reported that women were barred, I'm quoting Catherine's article, were barred from driving their bosses around. Who would have guessed that a legislature whose members get periodically obsessed with the imagined encroachment of Sharia law would adopt such Saudi-like vehicular restrictions? And she says basically what, these rules, which inherently sexualize what should be mundane work interactions, seem predicated on the premise that either A, all women are devilish temptresses, irresistible to their libidinous bosses, or B, all women are liars who will fabricate sexual harassment charges at the slightest provocation. So, let's take this a little larger. I mean, is this... We talk about the glass ceiling. Hillary Clinton now wants to crack the ultimate glass ceiling to become president of the United States. Carly Fiorina says, I already cracked the glass ceiling. I know how to do that. You should vote for me. I was the head of HP. But is this where the glass ceiling starts? I think so. Is this a major barrier to the entry into at least the doors of power, the old boy network for women? How much does this relate to 6,000 years of civilization, literally in the United States, right up until about 50, 60, 70 years ago, where women were functionally and in many cases legally the property of their husbands. And you could say in many ways they still are. I mean, in the 1970s, we had credit laws where a woman couldn't get credit without her husband co-signing, a married woman. And that was changed by law. But what kind of impact does this have on women? If you are a woman who has had these kind of experiences, I would love to hear from you. If you're a man who has had these kind of experiences, I'd love to hear from you. I mean, if I'm out of town and I'm having dinner with a friend who's a female, it's like, why should we even have to worry? If I go out to L.A. and I have dinner with my old friend Marianne Williamson, which I do frequently, by the way, should we worry about this? I mean, obviously we don't, but in many business circumstances, people do.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Business and politics. How do we fix this? What do we do about this? What does this say about us as a society?